This is Plant-Based Briefing. Can you boost your brain power with plant-based nutrition? Part 1 by Nelson Huber-Disla at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. But today's article is longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I'll read the first half today and then tune in tomorrow for the second half. And I'm pleased to have permission from the Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies to share their content. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Can you boost your brain power with plant-based nutrition? Part 1 by Nelson Huber-Disla at nutritionstudies.org. I was reminded recently of the 2011 science fiction thriller Limitless, which tells the story of a struggling author, played by Bradley Cooper, who takes a drug that unleashes his full mental capacity for the first time. You might remember the premise that we typically only use a small percentage of our brain power, which I suspect could appeal to audiences today even more than it did 15 years ago. Never have we been more persistently bombarded by distractions than we are today. Never have our attention and ability to focus been so manipulated and fractured. The proliferation of productivity devices and hacks speaks to an almost perverse value our society places on optimization. As if we were machines, as if by applying a few tweaks to our operating systems, we might become better versions of ourselves. Though we are not machines, thank goodness, many people and companies would love to find a special substance, like the drug in the film, capable of unlocking more of the mind's potential. In the meantime, many people and companies claim to have already found that substance. I'm not just talking about synthetic drugs either. When I commanded ChatGPT to give me a list of supplements thought to improve cognitive health, it quickly generated 20, expanding the list to 50 in a follow-up response. Thought to improve is a far cry from actual improvement, of course, but the AI's response illustrates how successful the industry's marketing is and how susceptible the buying public may be. When I asked for evidence or statements from authoritative health agencies backing up the supplements it listed, it largely backtracked, admitting that there is generally a scarcity of evidence for most of those products. You can read more about supplements in 2 articles linked here, To Supplement or Not to Supplement, and an article about quote-unquote whole food supplements like AG1 and Juice Plus. Whole food supplements are not whole foods. But what about food, not supplements? Can you boost your brain power by adding a few items to your diet? Or at the very least, are there some principles we might follow for better brain health? Choose a healthy, antioxidant diet and lifestyle. Better oxidative balance scores, OBS, a measure of both antioxidant and pro-oxidant components in a diet and lifestyle, are associated with cognitive function in older adults and less depression, especially in women. Similarly, total antioxidant capacity, TAC, a measure of the complete effect of antioxidants present in a system, is related to a decreased risk of cognitive dysfunction. Long-term intervention trials are needed to fully flesh out the relationship between dietary antioxidants and cognitive health. The current evidence supporting the role of antioxidants is compelling, but perhaps not as conclusive as you might assume. Nevertheless, it can only do you good to focus on a well-rounded diet that includes an abundance of antioxidant-rich foods, and the hypothesis makes a lot of sense. Aging processes in the brain affect brain function, and oxidative stress contributes to the aging process, so factors that reduce oxidative stress, for example, antioxidants, might help delay the aging process and its subsequent effects on brain function. Antioxidants are best obtained and often only obtained from plant-based sources. Certain beverages like coffee and tea, berries, and nuts are especially antioxidant-rich, and spices and herbs are usually among the most concentrated sources of antioxidants. Antioxidant-rich foods originate from the plant kingdom, write the authors of an impressive antioxidant database, while meat, fish, and other foods from the animal kingdom are low in antioxidants. It gets worse. Research shows that the antioxidant activity of certain plants can be dramatically impaired when you consume them with certain animal foods. In a fascinating study, the antioxidant activity of blueberries was blocked or impaired when subjects also consumed 200 milliliters, or just under 7 ounces, of whole milk. The control group drank water. This blueberry and milk example offers an important reminder that none of the foods we consume, from the antioxidant-rich to the antioxidant-poor, are ingested in isolation. If you want the benefits of healthier foods, it would seem commonsensical to avoid pairing them with suspect foods like cow's milk. Eat for your periodontium. The periodontium is a complex structure of tissues, bones, and ligaments that support our teeth. It is the foundation of oral health. Failure to care for the periodontium results in gingivitis, an earlier stage of gum disease, and if we're not careful, that can progress to periodontitis, which can bring with it gum recession, bad breath or halitosis, painful chewing, and tooth loss. Periodontitis is initiated by oral bacteria, but its progression is heavily influenced by pro- or anti-inflammatory factors. In the first study to document an association between overall dietary patterns and periodontal-related tooth loss, involving statistical analysis of 6,887 participants, researchers found that adherence to an anti-inflammatory diet is associated with fewer missing teeth. What does any of this have to do with the brain? It turns out that periodontitis is a common risk factor for dementia and cognitive impairment, as confirmed by a study of a nationally representative sample of over 4,500 National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey (NHANES) respondents. You might think this is because periodontitis and conditions of cognitive impairment share the same common underlying factor of chronic inflammation, and you would be right, partly. But there are also mechanisms by which periodontitis itself might lead to increased neuroinflammation and neurodegeneration. In other words, it's not merely that these conditions share a common cause. View Figure 4 below, outlining the possible mechanism how periodontal disease may affect Alzheimer's disease through increased chronic inflammation and infection of the brain by oral bacteria, by Ball and Darby. We have written about this elsewhere, linked here. The best dietary lifestyle for periodontal health is anti-inflammatory, making the case for a whole food plant-based diet almost a no-brainer. Lastly, numerous studies have shown a strong relationship between fruit and vegetable intake and better periodontal health. You just listened to Can You Boost Your Brain Power with Plant-Based Nutrition? Part 1 by Nelson Huber-Disla at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. Tune in tomorrow for the second half of this episode, where you'll learn about the Mediterranean diet and the Mind diet, and whether all the components of those diets are actually healthy. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.